Well, since the burden that is on my heart still lingers and still is the same, I think we started this kind of talk a few months back last year um, on the burden of shepherding. And and last time, or maybe the two past times, I elaborated more on a particular aspect of shepherding, a very important one, and that is seeking and restoring so-called dormant saints. And tonight I'd like to continue in that vein of fellowship. I hope that you have some memory of what we covered last time, and that is the matter of recovering the so-called, I say so-called, I put quotes around it, dormant brothers and sisters is a very tremendous matter. Actually, I would like to find a better way to describe these brothers and sisters. Even when we say they're dormant, it does not sound so good, right? Or backslidden, or something like that. But because which one of us have never been dormant? Which one of us have never backslid? Which one of us is always strong and never weakened? I think many of us, even we have taken vacation from the church life and drop out of a little bit or lose our heart here and there. And, we are distracted, somewhat by the world, by some other preoccupation. And so here and there, we are also dormant brothers and sisters. So the first thing is we should have a proper view, even the proper verbiage, the proper way of talking about this matter. If you have a better suggestion, please let me know. None of us would be still here without the Lord and without someone praying in a hidden way. And eventually without someone reaching out. I may be still in the church life, but in a peripheral place, on the outskirts, rather than being in the center. So for a saint or a brother or sister to pray for me, to reach out to me, to visit me, to invite me for dinner, for coffee, just because he or she has a burden for me, has a heart for me, has been praying for me, and probably observing me and also realizing from what they heard, what I'm going through. That outreach is an outreach to shepherd me in my condition, whatever that condition may be. Sometimes more serious, sometimes less so, sometimes more long and sometimes more temporal. In any event, we ourselves have been on the receiving end of such seeking and restoring. I can tell you that's my case. After I got saved as a junior higher, I got baptized, sixth grade and all of that. Then for a while I was kind of hot, but then I spent a few years between my junior high and high school years, having left the church life, kind of wandering in the world with my worldly friends and doing worldly things at a young age. But I know, later on especially, that some brothers and sisters have been praying for me, for people like me, saints like me, and they even begin to do certain things to try to contact me and reach out to me, despite my effort to get away from them and to hide and to just not let them, discover me. Somehow the prayer works, somehow I was found out because the Lord was working. And so after a while, because of their prayer and care, the Spirit began to have a way to sweep, the second parable in Luke 15, sweep in me, that is to cleanse, to find the Spirit Himself following the saints' activities and prayer. And that when the Spirit begins to work in that stirring way, or in that sweeping way, that's it. That means God is coming to me. God Himself, as the Spirit, is coming to me to retrieve me, to regain me. So the saints' prayer and care opens the doorway for the Spirit to do His work of sweeping and finding. So that was my story, and thank the Lord that that happened. And then even with the Spirit's inner working, the Lord's hand was also upon me. God's hand in my life, and in just then in all the things that I'm facing, the needs that I have. I begin to need the Lord. I cannot handle certain things. I need to make some big decisions. And so the Lord was also present in the environment to work out things to cause me, to ready me to come back to Him and to come back to the church life. And so, do you see this? Did God initiate this? Yes, God did in these dear ones. But it is these saints who are themselves vital, who were themselves one with the Lord, who were themselves living and active, and who were themselves burdened for people like me, as young as I was, just a kid, to pray for me desperately. I know that. And that's not only one, more than one, praying. And at a certain time, beginning to name my name before God. And so one thing led to another. And because of that, the Spirit joined in. You see, is God first? Is man first? Hard to say. In the end, it is both God and man, the Lord and us, laboring and working together to do this fine work of shepherding. And so I was a few years later, towards the end of my high school time, the second part of my high school years, it happened. That means I was returned in a powerful way, in a strong way, in a, looking back, in an unbelievable way to the Lord, resulting in the strongest revival and awakening in my life up to that point towards spiritual things and, the things of God. And with a deep sense of vanity, of meaninglessness of life. You're at that age, high school, into college. That's when the time when you feel that the most, the purposeless of your of your life, and all of that, just everything just kind of piled on and just happened, just all happened. But it did not really happen miraculously. It happened from the working together of man with God, God with man, on this one person right here. And so the return was powerful. The restoration was strong. The revival was um, was great. In my case, my testimony, that you may say lasted until now. From that point onwards, and then eventually I dove into the Lord's recovery after I came to this country, to go to school, go to college, and I have been here ever since. So without that experience at my young age, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. Needless to say, I won't be serving here. It was because of those desperate and powerful, strong prayers that I was not merely returned or or found. I was brought back like to the center of God's heart. I was brought back to a full life of consecration. And eventually I was brought fully back into the Lord's recovery, today's recovery. And all the things that I have experienced since then was due to some saints early on had the faith in the Lord to do something. I'm not the only one, but I can only testify on behalf of myself. And this, brothers and sisters, is tremendous. I'm not saying I'm somebody. No, but I'm saying this is a tremendous matter to shepherd someone back to Christ, back to the church, back to God's heart's desire, back to God's eternal purpose. Just for one person to be brought back to that, for one person to be consecrated, for one person to offer himself or herself to the Lord in this way. You just don't know 20 years, 10, 20, 30, 40 years later, what would happen. We just don't know. So, brothers and sisters, this is a great, great thing. I want to remind you that early on, when I talk about this matter of shepherding, presenting the vision of shepherding and the need of shepherding, quoting Brother Lee's ladder ministry in the 90s, heavily and repeatedly, it's all about shepherding. Brothers and sisters, it is all about shepherding. Today, I will tell you the greatest need is for many of the Lord's lovers like ourselves to have Him constitute Himself as that loving shepherd, as that good and great and chief and eternal shepherd of our souls, so that we would become just like Him. We would become His extension. We would become the little shepherds under the chief shepherd to take care of His flock, to take care of His lost sheep, to be one with the Christ in His shepherding spirit, to find that one lost sheep, not the 99, but the one lost sheep. And to be one, he needs some today in the church life, like you, like me, to become that, to be one with that woman who is the Spirit, to do the work of sweeping and finding that one lost coin, and to be one with the Father, our Father God, as that rich man who lost his son to dissipation, to a bad life, just totally squander all the inheritance he received in the Father's house, and who come to his senses because of the Spirit's sweeping work, and was happily, joyfully, lovingly received by the Father, who just didn't check him out, didn't look at his past, didn't examine him, but just ran to him and embraced him and kissed him on the neck and called out as quick as possible, reflecting the way he ran, quickly get the rope, quickly get the ring, quickly get those sandals and put it on him so that he can join us in this wonderful, beautiful party with joy. Why? Simple. Because this one was dead and now he lives. And this one was lost and now he's found. Then after the brother, the jealous brother, who didn't agree with all of this and complained to the father have to personally go out and talk to this unhappy brother and say, your brother has come home. Your brother has come home. And for what reason? The same thing. He was lost, or rather he was dead, and now he lives, he's living. He was lost, and now he is found. Join the party. Rejoice with me. You know, by the way, I like to say something that is common in all these three parables, is that the issue of finding a lost one is simply one thing: joy. Joy on earth and joy in the heavens. Just finding one out of 99, just finding one coin, just finding one son, missing son. Joy on earth and joy in the heavens. If, brothers and sisters, if you have recovered someone, if you have prayed for someone, if you have cared for someone and shepherd someone, and that someone returned, I tell you, there is a kind of joy that you don't get from anywhere else. It's like the joy of your salvation once upon a time. You just became so fresh, so encouraged, so uplifted. You would have your faith in the Lord restored, what He could do. You're just so happy. And that joy will fuel us to do more, to shepherd others. What the church needs, what the Lord's recovery need today, is not big speakers, no, gifted, whatever. I don't mean we don't need that. But I tell you, for a work of revival in the Lord's recovery, for the churches to be strong and prevailing, for the Lord's testimony, including the Lord's spread and propagation. What we need are many, many shepherds. This is the need. So, in that vision and need for shepherding that we covered, Brother Lee had these things to say in the last part of his life's ministry. Um, that the large gospel campaigns, the gifted speakers, the big sermons, the you know what I mean, um, eventually will not accomplish that much. And people can be saved, but how would they be careful and to grow and be brought into the proper Christian life and church life? Not through the big ones, not through campaigns, not through these movements, but through shepherds, one on one, two on one, enduringly, with long suffering, with abiding love for these ones who will not give up, who will just spend the time day in and day out. This is what will be operative and effective in truly gaining people and bearing remaining fruit. So the need is for many, many lovers of the Lord and seekers of the Lord to be burdened, to be such shepherds and recoverers and rescuers and restorers of the saints. At first, it may be just me because I know this brother or sister and I have a burden for them. But after a while, in all my observation of people getting eventually fully restored, it takes more than one. It takes more than one person. Usually it takes two or three. That's what we call vital companions. Usually it takes a little group of saints in a home, in an unthreatening environment, in a sweet and warm place, an atmosphere. And that's a group. That's a small group. And this is the way, brothers and sisters, to what? To gain people for the Lord, to grow the Lord's recovery. I was doing some checking into, in Christianity today in the US, the attrition rate, the average attrition rate or retention rate or growth rate, they have these ministry consulting firms doing nothing but, they poll people, they do those kind of things. Well, I'm not saying we do that, but it is quite interesting to see that eventually the way to retain people, to gain people, to have remaining fruit, whatever words you use, you need to face these things. Look, as of many years ago, of our own children, church kids so-called, by the time they reach the end of their college years, we would have lost 50% of them. One out of every two in the recovery. Now, I'm not talking about China or wherever. I'm just talking about here. Can even be more specific in Southern California, churches, internally. So today, I will tell you, there are many of these church kids floating around out there. They may even in their heart identify themselves with the church of their parents, but they're not here. What about them? If we did this kind of census 15, 20 years ago or something like that, these ones today are what? Goodness, 40, 50 years old, just like that. Then we're not counting the ones who would drop out of the church life, who would leave the church later on at an older age for this and that reason. I know, I was told more than once, that there are some brothers because of the matter, or sisters because of the matter of marriage, left, or because of, you know what I mean, this or that reason, they drop out. Now, there would be those who would be just poisoned or would be affected by negative things. There are those. But I would say by and large, that number is not large relative to the more regular or organic attrition among us. And this is hardly something that is unique to the recovery. This is the case in denominations and so on. Of course, some mainline old denominations are losing more people for obvious reasons. So you just consider, let's say we don't preach the gospel. Let's say we don't preach the gospel. Let's say we should, right? But let's say we don't. But day and night, we just go and find these lost sheep. We just go around locating them, warming them up, reconnecting with them, finding them, slowly restoring them. These are what I would call warm doors, really speaking. I tell you, the church will increase just doing that. And behind every person, would likely possibly be a spouse. There would be a couple of few children. There would be a string of people, a contingent of people behind every person, every name. And when we gain one, we would gain more. You know, Brother Lee even suggests we have to get the sisters going, because for sisters, it's easier. They're softer, they're not so hard. It's easy for sisters to connect with these ones. And when the sisters would turn, it's easier for the husband to turn than the other way. So whatever the case may be, brothers and sisters, I would say from young to old today, we have many, many candidates that we don't know exist, that we don't know that are around us, that are waiting. They even would have some feeling, but they need help. They need outreach. And so going back to what I mentioned in Luke 15, you have man cooperating with God to share the heart of that shepherd Christ, the Son, to be one with the Spirit, the sweeping woman in the house, and to have the Father's unconditional welcome and embrace of a prodigal. If we have turned loose many in the South Coast, all right, in Irvine, in San Juan Capistrano, in Huntington Beach, just this whole coast up and down. This is an employment center. People come here nowadays. This is the school that they went to, UCI. And so there's I'm hearing there's a list of 100. I don't know that 100 is by name, or I think it's by name, or does that include wives or husbands or children? What, I have no idea. But I'm sure there are more. And look, it's not even just they are here. A lot of these ones are elsewhere in the country, maybe even in the world. And today, with technology, with all of this, it would we would not be frustrated so easily from contacting these ones. And we have seen that happen by referrals, you know, by visitation, and so on. So I want to beg all of us, plead with all of us, all of you, because you are the stronger part of the body. But this work actually belongs to all of us. I was just back from this senior, or I call it evergreen conference, with a bunch of older saints, 600 of them up in the Bay Area. And I'm talking to them the same thing, the exact same thing. That if they can, their health prevents them from visiting and doing this and that, at least they can pray. And prayer is the first order. And how can God not respond to our prayer for his own, his sheep, his coin, his children, his sons? How can he not respond? He's just waiting for prayer, for our prayer. And with prayer and riding on that prayer, we would reach out at the right time, with the right person, in the right way, with that means simply with love, with concern, and not with condemnation, and not with blame, not with pressure, not with any of those kind of things, but with a very, very nice and proper attitude. Brothers and sisters, I'll tell you, I have no doubt we will see a revival in the South Coast churches. I have no doubt. I have no doubt that the church in Irvine, I've always saying, when will the church have 1,000 people? At the most, we're still hovering at 400 to 500. And it's been 30 years. I have no doubt if we would all do this, the increase will come. Not only these ones that we recover, but the extension of it. The fire will burn. And even these ones will have friends, because a lot of us who are in the church life, we lost all our friends in the world, you know what I mean? But these ones have friends. They have contacts. My goodness, brothers and sisters, this will happen. I believe so. But we have to receive the burden. We have to become vitalized. And how do we get vitalized in this regard? We talked about this and again and again. Just forgive me for repeating that. And that is, number one, we need to firstly contact the Lord. We've got to go and contact the Lord, to be with the Lord, to fellowship with the Lord, spend time with the Lord, consecrate ourselves to the Lord, and have our ear bore through again, and be ready to obey the Lord and to participate in this shepherding care, or this restoring care. Number two, we have to be, while we're in the Lord's presence, we need to spend some particular time to be touched by the Lord, and don't be afraid of this word, to be dealt with by the Lord. The Lord will touch us, and we need to check with the Lord about so many things until he can get through in all those things. Could it be sin? Could it be the world? Could it be some disobedience? What could it be? I do not know. but we need to just be with the Lord. It's not that hard, brothers and sisters, not that hard. We just go to Him and He will meet us in that way. You know, one thing that we all surely have to open to the Lord in with regards to what we're talking about is that the Lord can touch our disposition. You know, most of us don't have the disposition to like to be with people, to be interested in others, to love people, to have a heart for them. That's a dispositional thing. Or we're not sociable, or we're not just very self centered, self absorbed. And so, even this matter, we need to allow the Lord to touch and change our disposition. A lot of us are unwilling to go and contact people because of such a disposition. We don't want to inconvenience ourselves. So, for that, we just need to deal with the Lord, and then you're ready. You're ready to pick up a burden. Pick up the burden to care for people. Yes, I did say, don't wait for the Lord to do something. God will put something in you, but you also have to pick something up. And then we would, according to the Lord's leading, begin to pray. Lord, you just pray, Lord, burden me. Lord, cause me to be fully interested in people and to be involved with your people, your saints, my brothers and sisters. Not in a natural way because I don't have this kind of disposition, but in you, in the way of life, in by you replacing me, Lord, I'm willing to pay the price, any price, even my life, to love these people, to die for them even. I want to see them return. I want to see them saved. I want to see them grow. I want to see them to become an overcomer. People pray for me like that once upon a time. And so I am here. And in the beginning, you may pray generally, but as the Lord will lead you, you will become more specific. You hear about people, you see people, because now your eyes is open to look. You're not just always doing navel gazing. We should lift up our eyes and look at the white fields and look at the needy ones all around us, specific names. And you start to pray for them. I don't mean 1,000 names. I'm not even talking about 50 names. I'm talking about a few names that the Lord has laid on your heart, one by one. You just start to pray. And through that, the Lord will give you specific feeling. The Spirit will start sweeping. The Lord's hand will be in the environment of this person and in the heart of this person. And the Lord would even work some minor miracles to cause you to cross their path, to run into them, or whatever the case may be. If so many of us in the church life, brothers and sisters, would have our heart and our shoulders like that sheep that was found, right away he put it on his shoulders, didn't he? The shepherd on the shoulders to bear them and the breast to embrace them, to the point that whatever condition they are in, we feel it. When they fall, we weep. When they suffer, we weep. When they rise up, we're joyful. We bear them. We just bear them as our burden before the Lord. At the end, dear saints, really this kind of work of restoring, of shepherding, is simply up to has to do with our love for the brothers and sisters, for men. To have an interest in them, a burden for them, and the adequate prayer for them. Brother Lee said it is absolutely worthwhile to spend 3 years or 5 years, I don't remember, or 10, I don't remember. He said something like that, to regain a lost one. Now, I don't have that kind of patience naturally, or that kind of long suffering naturally. But if the burden is there, the burden is there. It's not the church arranging something. It's not we appointing something. Brothers and sisters, it's about you receiving this word of burden and just start with your companions, starting with yourself. So tonight, I'm still not getting into some of the fine points about shepherding, but I will begin to say a few words with the remaining time. I'm not here to do a Bible study, but these things came to me these 2 days. I like to still use these 3 passages to talk about the matter of restoring the saints. The first would be actually in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Strictly speaking, this is not about restoring or recovering the dormant saints, so-called. This is about needing all the members in the body, because the body, there are many members, and they're all different, and they're all in different kind of conditions, but we have many members. And the whole point here in chapter 12, second half of 1 Corinthians, is that all these are God-placed members in the body, in the Lord's recovery. Some are still here, some are not here. But they are still members of the one body of Christ. And because we are members of each other, we have need for one another. Do we have the feeling that we need these ones who are not with us? You would say they're gone. But do we have the feeling we need them? We desperately need them back. We need them to be here. Or we would be like what Paul say, the head said to the feet, I don't need you. Oh, he's gone, forget about him. Oh, that one sinned, forget about him. Or do we still have the feeling they're still members and we need them? And so we need to find them so the church life would be fuller. And he says, here's some points. He said, the members of the body which seems weaker are necessary. I think this is a better word for dormant, is weaker saints, which sometimes even we can become. Paul says the weaker ones are more necessary. Those who are honorables, those who are comely, those who are in the middle of the church life, they don't need as much. Those who are well don't need a physician. It's those who are sick. The 99 are okay, but it's the one that is lost. We need to clothe them with honor, these ones, these uncomely members, these weaker ones, more abundantly. You see, dear saints, when we talk about restoring, seeking, we need this kind of a feeling, this kind of a heart of need for them. Yes, they need us, but brothers, let's turn this around. We need them. We need them. And we're supposed to give more abundant honor to these members that lack. How about we use this word, the lacking saints? They're just weaker. They're just lacking in some ways today. We need to honor them. We need to shower abundance of honor by caring for them, by not dismissing them and forgetting them, because we need to have the same care for one another. For us to go and find them, to recover them, is for us simply to do what we should do, that is to care for one another. Who knows, one day I need someone to care for me. How about the suffering saints? I think that is a good word. Some saints, they're not here because they're suffering under certain adverse circumstances, challenging, difficult circumstances that took them out, that they could not stay. But he also says that when one member is glorified, when one member is cared for, when one member is sought out, when one member return, all the members rejoice. All the members rejoice. You see, the joy is here again. So here are the attitude, the feeling we should have in this kind of seeking and restoring work. And that is what? And that is considering them as members that we need. These lacking, suffering, weakened brothers and sisters. We need to find them and clothe them like the Father did to the Son. Oh, what a joyful day that would be when we see one after another of these ones coming home, coming back, first to our homes, and then to the groups, and then to the meetings of the church. In time, I tell you, the church will be just filled with joy. Filled with joy. And who doesn't want to be in that kind of a church life? The second case is what I referred to last time, and that is more specific to restoration, and that is Galatians 6, about restoring a fallen one, someone that is overtaken by some offense, by some transgression, someone who failed maybe. Brothers, if a man is overtaken in some offense, you who are spiritual, those of you who are one with the Lord, those of you who have the Lord's heart within you, restore such a one, recover such a one in a spirit of meekness. I think last time I said, this shows us, dear saints, when we go to do this work of recovering, we cannot have any feeling of superiority complex, of being condescending, looking down on them. I'm here to help you. No, here the spirit of the meekness means a spirit of gentleness. Meek, that means you don't fight. You just, like the Lord, I'm meek and lowly in heart. Meekness and lowliness of heart is always together. That means when we go and find them, we don't think we're higher than them. We rather think we're lower than them. And then Paul says, looking at yourself, don't forget, lest you yourself will be tempted. You be the next one out. It's possible, brothers and sisters, if it's not for the Lord's mercy and grace. So we need to clothe ourselves with humility. When it talks about loving others, loving other members, it's always in the position of lowliness and humility. When we go and look for brothers and sisters, this would be non-threatening. There will be no pressure here. There will be no accusation here. There will be no exposure here. We just are happy to see them. We're just joyful to have found them. We're just so pleased and so delighted to reconnect with them. You know, Brother Lee talked a lot eventually about restoring people is don't go and give a sermon. Even don't go and talk too much. Go and just smile. Go and be happy. And go and just be joyful because you're in the presence of such a one. Don't even need to say too much. Don't even need to do too much. You just there. You know, in a lot of my visiting of people, I tell you, I never realized until afterwards what impact a simple visit does. I mean, not much is even talked, not much is even, it's just even a brief time. And it's later on that I found out that what I consider to be very ordinary, nothing special, to this particular person, it's like the Lord still loves me, The church still cares. His brothers still haven't forgotten about me. Just that. No sermon, no nothing. Just that. They start to warm up to the Lord. And this is how the care is, the so-called what? The cherishing part of shepherding is simply to warm up. And nothing warms people up more than concern and care and love and compassion. Then the other case, the last one, now I'm done here, is with the case in James, at the very end of James, talking about, Elijah's prayer and so on. After that, he said, brothers, if anyone among you is led astray from the truth and someone turns him back. Okay, whatever the case is, this is talking about someone who left the truth. There are some saints who got stumbled by certain things in the church life in the past. Someone who got the wrong kind of information, misinformation about the church, or whatever the case may be, and someone turns him back. I like those few words. Someone turns him back. And this takes time because a lot of things are lodging in their head. The wrong concepts, the wrong understanding, the wrong story. It could be anything. Or some real stumbling by some brothers or some sisters. How do you recover such a one? How do you heal that broken heart? How do you turn this one back to have his confidence in the recovery restored? That the church is not bad. That the church doesn't abuse people because they suffer something. Not easy, but it needs someone to turn such ones back. Let him know that he who turns a sinner back from the error of his way will save that one's soul from death and will cover a multitude of sins. Well, this is the work of recovery. Among the names that we may have, that we have all kinds, in all situations, have different history, different reasons why they have left. So we need to learn how to, we'll talk more about that, regain these ones in time. And every visit every coffee you have with them, by the way, there are mainly two things we do in this. Number one, to visit by Zoom, by personal visit, by coffee visit, right? And by this invitation, invite them to your home at the right time, right? Visitation and invitation in a repeated way, not with pressure, in a very appropriate way, based on much prayer behind the scenes, and your continual burden. Slowly, we will save that person's soul, right? This is not about eternity because they have eternal life already, but it's about their soul being saved in this age and in the coming kingdom. That is not a small thing. And whatever the case may be, our care for such ones will save them from death. Anyone who leaves the church will be more in a condition of death. That is true. So what is our visiting? What is our recovering work? Brothers, let me tell you, this is the highest form of our service. That is to minister life to them, to minister Christ to them, to help them back to the Lord and into the enjoyment of Christ. Later on at the end in 1 John, it says, we can be those who dispense life, not God, but we can dispense life into such ones to save them from the practical death today, and will cover a multitude of sins. The footnote says here the covering here actually has the meaning of forgiveness. The Father who received the Son, goodness, no one wants to hear what the Son has done. Debauchery, dissipation, just all out. But the Father have nary one condemning word. He just received. He just forgave. And of course, in time, there may be the need for certain repentance, right? But that work is the work of the Spirit. The work of the Spirit. And when we gain and help these ones to a certain point, whatever that is needed to be touched by the Lord, to be dealt with by the Lord, through the Spirit and through the Spirit's work and through our prayer, the Lord would be able to do that. So 9:00, I stop here. Dear Saints, I hope, I'm kind of repeating myself, I think, from last time, but I don't care about repeating or not repeating. I'm burdened about the burden getting through, and then we would all start. You don't need to wait, brothers and sisters. We can start now, 2025. We can start wherever we are, whichever church we're in. Just you and 2 or 3, your partners, your vital partners and companions, as the Lord leads. Maybe you would have every week with your companion 1 or 2 or 3 times, not in the meetings, but through Zoom or over some get-together, would pray for each other's names. In other words, our church life, a big part of our church life outside of the meeting, as far as our service to the Lord, should be occupied with this. And how wonderful that will be. I stop here.